Hi, my name's Tony and I'm from the Sup Company, and I'm here today to tell you a little bit more about the Fanatic Sky Wing range. So here we are with the Fanatic Sky Wing lineup, and I'm really pleased to say that I'm joined by Nick Baker from Fanatic UK. Nick, thanks for joining us.
No problem, my pleasure.
Nick, the Sky Wing range is, for us, with the advent of wingsurfing, is just exploded. It is, well, you know yourself. I mean, it's hugely popular. The Sky Wing certainly is one of those boards, and well, I say one, the range has grown. It's the board that really for us has just, well, we can't get enough of them.
I'm going to say, if I could supply them enough to you, yeah, absolutely.
It is that popular, and it's really kind of testament to, I think, Fanatic to having the foresight to kind of drive and really get behind wingsurfing, and just with their development, duotone of the wing itself, the foil lineup that we now have from Fanatic, and the boards, and really Sky Solback, the designer behind, you know, the whole range, is just, well, the quality of the product is fantastic, but the design and the features that have gone into it really, yeah, it's kind of become the industry standard for wingsurfing. Can you run us through the range? What have we got size-wise?
Okay, well, yeah, I mean, as you said, you touched on obviously the foil wing, I suppose, phenomenon that has literally exploded over the last 2 years to the end consumers, probably the last 12 months to the real people that actually realise that it is a new sport. It's a standalone sport. We're not trying to take it away from any other sports out there. It is an add-on, and it's, you know, its own thing, if you like. Sky, who's developed all our boards, he's obviously involved now with our sort of performance SUP boards. He does a lot of the duotone kite products, of course. He develops the wings, and him and Ken Winner, the duotone kite designer, have been developing and working on them for themselves, obviously until it got into production for, I think, nearly 5 years now. So been a long time coming, and greatly, you know, amazingly exciting. I got into it 2 years ago now, basically, and if I'm honest, I've gotten pretty addicted to it and just love it. I mean, really have done. And what Sky's done and Fanatic have done with the new range, or this existing Skywing range, is pretty awesome. It certainly is a benchmark range that seems to be out there. We have 5 different sizes. They go from 6 foot down to a 4'8". Across the range, they sort of split slightly, the 5'4" being the smallest in the sort of early planing range, if you like, where the underwater side is quite flat, basically allowing us, with the smallest platform as we can, to get the board moving as fast as we can, as early as we can, basically to get the water travelling over the foil, to get the board to lift up. Once we're off, we're flying, we're all good. At the 5 foot and 4'8" size, we get full double concaves in the bottom, we'll show you in a minute, which is more performance, wavy, stops the board from touching down, or when it does, it allows it to keep launching and keep yourself on your way when you're bouncing it off white water and things like that, and jumping and stuff. So yeah, 6 foot, 130 litres, 5'8", then we go down to 110 litres. They're your sort of entry level, depending on your skill level, your weight, and where you're going to do it. I myself learnt on up sort of 135 litre, the early sort of Sky SUP foil boards, which, you know, is what these come from, our Sky SUP foil range, which we still do at the 6'11", 6'7", and 6'3". So if you're going to SUP foil as well as foil wing, then that's sort of range you might look at. The Sky Wing is a dedicated wing range, all the way from 6 foot down to the 4'8". Myself, I'm 85, you know, a bit of generally around 85, 90 kilos. My light wing board is 4 now that I can do it. I use this from 7 metre down to 5 metre underpowered, with wings from our sort of 2000 down to 1500 high aspect wings that I use on it now. And then when it gets windy, 5.0 onwards, good conditions, then I jump down to the 5 foot, which is 75 litres from the 95 litre board. When it's epic conditions, perfect, then I'll go to my 4'8", which is 55. So it's quite a small board, sort of a sinker, obviously, for my sort of weight rise. But entry level, starting out 6 foot or 5'8", definitely. I can go bigger. By, you know, the fact that it's 130 litres, a 6 foot board, that's still pretty short.
And that's the thing, volume is a question we get asked a lot, particularly with people kind of starting out in their wingsurfing journey. And that can be anyone really that has got no real background in water sports, they've seen people out foiling and they're like, what is that magic? I want a piece of that. To really people like yourself that have got a hugely successful windsurfing career behind them. But there's a lot of people transitioning to the sport now, and I know that you say you're addicted to the sport, but yeah, whenever I try and get you on the phone, it's, you've had a great session on this stuff.
I've had to get an iWatch so I can have my headphones to talk to you.
We've done that a couple of times now.
We have. But for me, if you're starting out, if you're an intermediate or, an okay windsurfer, kite surfer, waterman that's used to dealing with the wind, if you like, then you could maybe start on sort of the 5'8", 110 litres. If you're, that 60 to 80 kilos possibly. If you're above that, then I would go 6 foot.
Yeah.
If you do it a lot, at the 3 to 6 months later, you're going to want a smaller board. But then you'll keep your 6 foot, or if you go for a 5'8", sort of 110 litre type, you'll keep that for your light wind days. So you'll end up with a 6.5, 7 metre type wing. And then when it's drifting weather, it's amazing how light you can go out in the sort of wind conditions you can go out. As long as you've got that platform under you, you can use the wing as a third wheel if you like. Get yourself, pump that board on a foil, and off you go. And once you're flying, you barely need any wind.
And this is the thing with the 5'8" and the 6 foot, is they've got the volume to enable you to get to your feet to actually then start to get on the foil and pump in those lighter conditions.
Yeah, but we haven't got that big long sort of length, if you like. So once you are going, you can still pump. You've still got that manoeuvrability. A 6 foot still feels like a really short, small, compact board. I mean, I learnt on a 610, which is quite a beast of a board nowadays, But yeah, to be able to learn on such a small board means you don't learn and after 3 months go, I've got to chuck that away and get a new board. So you can add to that range. You can sell it if you like, and to be honest with you, you'll sell it for retail prices.
Well, the residual values we've seen in the used market, and when we part exchange kit here as well, Fanatic products generally are really well sought after and command really strong residual values. So I think, that alleviates a lot of concerns for people when they are looking to get into a new sport, particularly first time, because there is an initial outlay for sure. It's not a small amount of money by any stretch, but to do that and have the confidence in a quality brand like Fanatic and knowing that there's a good used market there for quality products, then we've seen people, and we've taken boards back ourselves and helped people onto smaller boards, but it gives them that confidence, to go out and not jump the steps. Because if you jump the steps too early and go for a 5'4", think, I can windsurf, or I can kite surf, or I can surf, and I'll jump those steps. Yes, in perfect conditions, flat water maybe, you may learn and you may but it will take you twice as long. Yeah.
And why make it any more difficult?
And if you haven't foiled before, there's an awful lot going on.
Oh, there is.
Particularly if you have the wing overhead as well, and there's enough wind for you to get out on the wing, and invariably you've only got the one size wing, so you're trying to make it work perhaps in conditions that aren't favourable. Yeah, there's a lot going on. So making sure you've got the right kit underneath you and the right board particularly is critical. So I know that within the range, you've touched on it already, that there's a kind of this distinct line between the 5'8", and then the 5'4", and the 5'4", and the 5'0". It's just when you go from the 5'4" to the 5'0", and that's why we've got a 5'4" here, and then the 5'0". There's a big change, particularly in the underside of the boards. But can you run us through the features on the deck? Because that's fairly consistent across the range.
Yes, it is. Yeah, they're basically, as you see, they're as short as we can get them with the volume we need. They're reasonably thick, so you've got fairly boxy rows.
Very thick.
They are. You've got a bit of a tuck under the row. Not too much. I've seen, certain products out there where you've got so much tuck underneath that it makes the sort of the planing, the moving part of the board so narrow, you may as well be on a tiny little board, because then they don't get going until you've got so much wind in your wing that once you're going, actually, you may as well be on a small board.
We've played on other product, and where it is very tucked in underneath, you do have to be not a beginner, a little bit intermediate, because it doesn't.
If you're high level, you're riding in bigger waves and you're turning really hard and faster, then that comes into its own, which is we have in our smaller boards. But for most people, they're years down the line before they get to that.
They don't come up straight. No. Is kind of the easiest way I can describe it.
They're sticking on the water. You have to make, and that whole pumping action to get going, a year or 6 months, 12, 18 months down the road, you'll get that feeling, but it takes time. You think you got it, but actually when you do get it later on, you realise, oh my God, I had no idea. But that sort of pumping motion that you get, and you can get going in very light winds, is amazing when you've got a product you can do it with.
Yeah.
You've got something that's sticking to the water and wants to stick to the water, then it becomes really hard. It's sort of fighting against you for no real reason, if you like.
But that's the really good thing in the Skywing range, is that there is this distinct line down the middle, because it's not just a product that's been designed and then works, and then they've put on a computer and made it longer and bigger, a bit more volume, done. No, there's definite thought given to each board, and each size is that way for a reason.
And for the marketplace.
Yeah,
totally. At the end of the day, we're trying to sell these products to end consumers that need to use them in certain conditions. We're not selling it for Hawaii to go out in 15-foot surf. At the end of the day, we're selling it for flat water, choppy water, up to sort of this sort of size waves when you get down the road. And for most people, that's 6, 12, 2 years down the road before you're even thinking about going out in a proper breaking wave, because it's sort of daunting initially when you're
for sure
2-3 foot above the water, and it's all a bit, it's the most incredible feeling, but it is a bit down the road. By going too small, too radical, too early, that's even further down the road. It just makes it more difficult, a bit like going paddleboarding for the first time on a pro wave. You wouldn't do it, So to me, the range, as we said, we go from 6 foot down to 5'8", down to the 5'4", which is where, obviously, as you see, if you look underneath, the bottom shape is really quite flat all the way through.
Yeah.
Obviously, an amazing feature, which is sort of next level on from what we had in the past, where we got the handle in the bottom.
Yeah.
Once the foil's all out here, you're carrying your wing in the water. One of the trickiest bits when we were learning was getting in and out of the water. When it's a nice flat lake and river and things, it's not so difficult. But in the ocean, that certainly makes it difficult. So we've got a handle on the top and a handle on the bottom, which is really great.
Yeah.
As you see, quite a rectangle sort of outline. Very slight bit of double concave in the front for when we do sort of slap down occasionally, so we can still launch. When you go to the 5 foot, obviously, like we said, we've got a lot more double concave, but a big platform, tail all the way through to nose, like the stubby sups, in a way where you've got all that stability. So when you're not moving, when you're climbing onto your stomach, onto your knees, getting the wing above your head and you want to go to your feet, you've got this platform that's really short, so works very well once you're going, but you want to make the most of it when you're basically stationary until you get up on that foil. Once you're up on the foil, you just want the smallest, most compact product you can have, because you don't sort of need it. You know, by going too small, it does make it lively, which so too small, it'll make it a little bit more tricky, but you want that shortness. You've got a certain width, and if you look from the length all the way down to the width, it gradually reduces. So we don't just get shorter and then loads more width in it just to try and get the volume. It does gradually go down, obviously, lengthwise, widthwise.
So there are a few features, though, that are consistent within the board. So if you can roll it back over for us. So on the deck pad particularly, and I know something that helped me a lot really was this central ridge that runs all the way down the board. Can you run us through as to why that's there?
Well, when you're learning, you obviously don't have the foot straps on. These are my boards basically straight out the van. You wouldn't have the foot straps on until you get further down the road, because you could. It sort of makes you a few steps, but it's cheating. And when you get into trouble, you won't realise why. So I would definitely recommend you learn without the foot straps, any of them on there. Once you're going, you're climbing up onto your knees, you get the wing above your head. You don't want to keep looking down to see if your feet in the right place. And it needs to be in the centre line. If your foot's out on any one rail, once that launches onto the foil, once it lifts up, whichever way you've got your feet, if it's on the left side of the rail, it's just going to veer straight into wind or downwind, depending on the side your feet are on. So by having this ridge all the way through the centre line of the board, you can feel it, wing above your head, not looking down, you can have make feet in the right location. Obviously, you need to see you are forwards and backwards. With the wings, you have quite a wide stance, because a lot of it is about moving your hips backwards and forwards with fairly sort of bent at the knees, not straight legs. Because as soon as you launch up, you need to, if the front's coming up, you need to move your hips forwards, to get the weight on the front wing. As you see, we've got the foot strap options. You can have a cross strap, so you can have a single strap at the front if that's your desire and you only want to go on one tack. Whereas I personally, I jibe my feet. I turn my feet around if going in there. If I'm jumping on the way out or coming in and I'm riding, I'm left foot forward. So I would always ride left foot forwards. But then if I was going back out if the wind's coming from the right, then I would switch my feet. Much easier going upwind, a lot less effort on your body, not so much straining. And also I like doing the jumps as well. So that allows you to do that. Long deck pad. So without the foot straps, obviously when your feet aren't in it, or if you're drifting and floating out, my feet sometimes are quite far forwards. But without the foot straps, obviously you've got plenty of area around.
But the deck itself as well is quite concave.
Really concave. That obviously, and forces your feet into the center of the board. But up and then you can move your feet around and get some angle through it. Personally, when I'm wave riding, my feet are basically the foot. I'm just leveraging through that way. But fit into that center line, that's really critical.
And all those features on the deck, as we kind of alluded to already, cross over to the smaller shapes and the larger shapes that we have as well. But this here is this distinct line between the 5.4 and the 5.0. Can you grab the 5.0 and we'll pop it up?
5.4.
Yeah, we'll pop it up on the screen as well now, so you can just see how different they are.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the extreme double concave through that sort of the whole front half of the board, and as you look, the actual bevel on the rail compared to on a 5 foot, there's
much more aggressive, isn't it?
Much more aggressive. And the idea behind that is, when you're out in more windy conditions, bumpy conditions, and ultimately waves. So when you're turning on a wave and a white water's coming, you can sort of, with this front, you can sort of bounce off the white water without it sticking. You've obviously got this bevel on the rail, so when you are carving hard, that rail's not catching. Again, you've got to be carving pretty hard to be doing that. So it's down the road for most people, but quite amazing when you get into more performance condition and you are pushing those boundaries, the difference it does make.
But you've still got an awful lot of volume in this board. So this at the 5.0. So for us, certainly the 5.4 is the most. 95 litres is definitely the most popular shape and size. This then drops down. The 5.0 drops to 75 litres.
The 4.8 goes to 55.
Yeah,
that's fun. I can tell you, when you're trying to get it going, again, different ways. You see these videos of people how to deep water start your wing in a pair of shorts, 28 degrees water, sunshine, 4 metre or 3.5 metre wing, fully powered up, dead flat water. It's all well and good. It's a whole different ballgame when you're out in the ocean and it's constant white water, it's bumpy, it's gusty, it's cross onshore winds. It really is quite different, So sort of why I have a mixture of boards, because it really depends on where I'm going, what conditions it is as to what I use, if I'm honest. I'm quite fortunate, obviously, by having most of the products. But yeah, climbing on the boards that sink, in choppy conditions, you've got to go from basically being in the water holding the wing, climbing onto this little tiny board, knowing where to put your knees or your weight forwards or backwards. At 75 litres, at my sort of weight, 85 kilo, those things sink, and they sink quite quickly, nose or tail first. So you've got to sort of get on it, holding the wing in the water as a balance point. White water or waves are coming in. As soon as it's a slight flat spot, pull yourself up straight to your wing, and then I personally go straight to my feet. As quick as I can get to my feet, I'm on it. Because once I'm up and I'm balanced in the right place and I've got a bit of wind in my wing, I can then sort of fight and get myself through white water or whatever and get the board to start moving forwards and come out, lift, pump, and off you go. But sounds quite easy. When it's underwater, white water coming at you and things, it's a bit tricky.
Yeah, so, I remember my journey in wingsurfing, and it was challenging but so rewarding. And this is the thing with wingsurfing particularly, is its appeal is huge to so many different people from so many different backgrounds. And I'm sure for yourself, as experienced as you are, that it's the fact that you're learning something new, and it's so rewarding just learning something new, a new skill. And to have these boards under you makes a massive, massive difference. So much so that we've actually got the 5.8 Skywing is in our test centre, as is the 5.0 as well, just because you've got those two distinct differences. But the 5.8 is a very, very hard-working board. It's exceptionally popular. But Nick, look, thank you so much for giving us an overview. I know how passionate you are about wingsurfing, and I know just how well placed Fanatic are and how much effort's gone into the kit, because it really just is unreal, and you can feel it instantly when you're on it. So look, if you are out there looking for a wingsurfing board, if you want some wingsurfing advice about wings, foils, or indeed these fantastic boards here, then just give us a call in the shop or head over to thesupco.com.